Welcome to Life Stories, where sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who leave you behind. Imagine waking up in a city you've never been to, alone. No money, no passport, not even a goodbye, just a single note from your mother saying, "You're old enough to survive." This isn't a story about revenge. It's about what happens when a broken girl chooses to build, not burn. But healing doesn't come without a price. And sometimes, the hardest part of survival is deciding what to do when the past knocks on your door years later. What would you do if the people who abandoned you came back, asking for grace? Take a deep breath and stay with us. This is a story you won't forget. Now, let's begin. The first time Callie Moore realized something was wrong, she was halfway through a pistachio croissant in a corner cafe in downtown Seattle. Her dad sat across from her, sipping his double espresso, glancing at his phone but not typing. Her mom, wearing the coral lipstick she usually saved for weddings or funerals, was staring just past Callie's shoulder, as if someone might walk in and interrupt the moment. They had told her this trip was a reset, a break from school, stress, and all the shouting matches she had gotten into lately, a time to breathe, to be a family again. At 16, Callie wasn't naive, but she was desperate to believe that was possible. The morning had started out strangely normal. Her dad even cracked a joke about the rental car being smarter than he was. Her mom had hugged her a little too long at the breakfast buffet. There was something brittle in the air, like the silence before a glass shatters. Then came the walk. 15 minutes, her mother had said, her voice lighter than usual, like she was trying on happiness to see if it still fit. "Let's pick up something for your brother." Callie had followed without a second thought. No phone, just her hotel keycard in her hoodie pocket and a wallet with exactly $12. She remembered the way her mom's hand barely brushed hers as they walked past Pike Place Market, the way her dad kept glancing over his shoulder like he'd forgotten something. Then, just like that, they were gone. One second she was admiring handmade leather journals in a street vendor's booth, the next she was alone. At first, it didn't register. She wandered back toward the cafe. Nothing. Tried calling. Voicemail. Again, voicemail. When she returned to the hotel, the front desk manager looked confused. "Your parents checked out this morning," he said. "Checked out?" The words spun in her brain like dirty water circling a drain. She ran upstairs, pounded on the door to their room. Her key card didn't work. The concierge came, opened the door with a master key, and inside, nothing. No bags, no clothes, no sign she'd ever been there. Her backpack, gone. Her passport, gone. Even the cheap charm bracelet her brother had given her for her birthday, gone. She stumbled into the hallway, legs rubbery, stomach tightening into knots. Her phone buzzed once before dying completely. She sat there for hours, numb, watching the carpeted hallway blur and shift as hotel staff passed without a glance. When night fell, she found herself at the train station, curled on a bench with her knees to her chest. The industrial lights hummed overhead like a warning. Each screech of a departing train cut through the silence like a scream. She didn't cry until she reached into her jacket pocket and felt the folded piece of paper. "You're 16. Old enough to survive." Her mother's handwriting. "No love, Mom." No explanation, just a sentence. It was the coldest thing she'd ever touched. In the following days, she wandered Seattle like a shadow, slipping through alleys, surviving on free samples, sleeping beneath bus shelters or in the lobbies of 24-hour laundromats. She learned to move without being seen, learned how hunger steals your ability to think, how cold reorders your priorities. Her thoughts narrowed to survival. Until the day she tried to steal a baguette. The bakery was small, tucked between a closed tattoo parlor and a dry cleaner on a quiet street. It smelled like warmth, butter, flour, safety. She had stood outside for nearly an hour before she saw the tray of cooling loaves by the window. Her hand had just wrapped around the crust of one when another hand caught her wrist. "I wouldn't do that," the woman said. She was tall, probably in her late 60s, with white hair tied back and a face weathered like cracked parchment. Her apron was dusted with flour. She didn't look angry, just tired, and sure of herself. Callie froze, ready to run. Instead, the woman looked at her, really looked, and said, "You want bread, you wash trays, until I can see myself in them." It felt like a sentence, but it was, in its own way, a lifeline. The woman's name was Maggie. To the neighborhood, she was known as Mama Mags, though no one knew if she had any children of her own. She lived in the apartment above the bakery with a cat named Sinatra and a collection of antique coffee grinders. That night, Callie scrubbed tray after tray, her knuckles raw, vinegar stinging under her nails. Maggie said nothing until the last one was done. "Good enough. There's a mattress upstairs. Don't break anything." It wasn't kindness. It wasn't charity. It was something else. A deal. Callie didn't sleep well that first night, but for the first time since she'd been abandoned, she slept inside. Safe, fed, named. And then months passed. She worked in silence. Maggie never asked questions, never pried. She taught Callie through repetition how to fold dough with the right weight of grief, how to gauge the oven's mood like a lover's silence, how to measure flour by feel, not sight. One evening, Callie took out the trash and noticed a torn backpack leaning against the dumpster. Inside, a cracked laptop and a tangle of wires. She almost threw it away until the idea struck her like lightning. What if it still works? She taped the charger with bakery labels. She stole Wi-Fi from the cafe across the street. And when the screen finally lit up, dim, flickering, but alive, it was the first light she had turned on for herself in over a year. She started studying, quietly, relentlessly, GED prep, then finance, business articles, investment videos, supply chain breakdowns. She didn't understand most of it, not at first, but she kept going. It was the same rhythm she had learned in the bakery: repetition, heat, patience. Her first investment was 78 cents shy of $100, every tip and crumpled bill she had saved. The stock tripled in 2 weeks. She didn't feel rich. She felt seen. With her second investment, she bought a used espresso machine for the bakery. The old one had been leaking for months. Maggie said nothing when it arrived, just nodded once and kept slicing apples. "You're walking different," Maggie said one night. "Used to be like the floor might vanish under you. Now you walk like you own the ground." Callie smiled, quietly. 3 years later, she owned a registered business, Seymour Advisory. The name was hers, but also not. Just enough distance to stay hidden. Until Maggie handed her the newspaper. A real estate auction. A foreclosed property. A lakefront house in Ohio. Callie's breath caught. She knew the address, the number, the street, the uneven cracks on the sidewalk outside. It was the house her parents had bought after abandoning her. The one they'd posted photos of online, smiling with fresh coats of paint and captions like "Family First" and "New Beginnings." It was going up for auction in 2 weeks. Maggie didn't say anything, just folded the paper and handed it over. "What are you going to do?" she asked. Callie stared down at the photo of the house and smiled. "What would you do if you were given the chance to reclaim the place that broke you? Would you walk away or walk in with your head held high?" She booked a flight that night, not to return as the girl they left behind, but as the woman they'd never see coming. Continue reading in part 2. Callie stood outside the county administration building in Cincinnati, the cold biting through her coat despite the thick wool lining. Her breath fogged the air as auction numbers were handed out, and people milled around, their eyes scanning documents, paddles tucked under their arms like shields. No one noticed her. That was the plan. She wore a tailored gray coat, wire-rimmed glasses, hair pulled into a tight bun, every inch a quiet professional from a firm with nothing to prove. Maggie stood beside her, wrapped in a navy scarf, face unreadable. They could have been anyone, just two women looking for a good deal on troubled property. The bidding moved fast, faster than Callie expected. A real estate investor, mid-50s, comb-over, smug posture, kept raising his paddle, eyeing Maggie each time like he couldn't figure out why she kept matching him. She didn't flinch. When Callie leaned in and whispered the next number, Maggie's arm went up without hesitation. They won, with a final bid that left Callie's stomach churning. It was more than she'd planned to spend. But she didn't blink. The house was hers now. No, not hers. See more advisories. Legal, clean, untraceable. But the moment she held the printed confirmation in her hands, it felt personal. Her palms trembled as she folded the document and slipped it into her coat pocket. The address she once memorized out of necessity, emergency forms, school records, job applications, was now etched into her ownership records. The past hadn't just circled back. It had landed squarely in her lap. Back at the hotel, Callie sat on the edge of the bed, hands wrapped around a lukewarm coffee cup she hadn't touched in an hour. Her laptop glowed beside her, open to the meeting invite her lawyer had sent. A quiet real estate office on the outskirts of the city. Neutral ground. She could have let them be evicted by mail. Let the sheriff knock on their door. Let them wonder who had pulled the strings behind their collapse. But she didn't want mystery. She wanted truth. They arrived late. Her mother was still the same, poised, dressed like a lifestyle blogger trying to mask chaos. Beige cardigan, 2 large sunglasses, hair styled with the same perfect curls she always wore when she wanted control. Her father followed behind, a step too slow, a leather folder clutched to his chest like a shield. He looked older than she remembered, smaller, not physically, but diminished. They didn't recognize her, not immediately. She waited. She watched them settle across the table from her, whispering something to each other. Her mother took off her sunglasses halfway, only when the silence dragged too long. Her eyes flicked over Callie's face, once, then again. Something cracked. The silence was sharp, taut like piano wire. Callie removed her glasses, sat up straighter. "My name is Callie Moore," she said evenly. "We've met before." Her mother's lips parted slightly. A tremble passed through her jaw, barely visible. "In Seattle, when I was 16. The silence broke like thin ice. Her mother leaned back, hands gripping the arms of the chair. Her father inhaled sharply, then exhaled without meeting Callie's eyes. We thought it would be easier," her mother finally said, voice paper thin. "If we just disappeared. We thought you'd hate us less if we didn't explain." Callie blinked slowly, resisting the heat rising to her face. "You didn't explain," she said. "You left me in a foreign city. No ID, no money, no goodbye. Just a note that said I was old enough to survive." Her father cleared his throat. Still didn't speak. Callie slid the deed across the table. "The house belongs to my company now. The paperwork is legally binding. You have 30 days to vacate." Her mother's composure cracked, a sharp inhale morphing into something between a whimper and a gasp. "Callie, you can't do this. You're our daughter." "No," Callie said, voice flat. "Your daughter was a phase you abandoned. I'm what came after." She stood. But before she could leave, her mother whispered, "We were drowning, Callie. Your father was deep in debt. I had lost my job. You were spiraling. We didn't know how to fix any of it. We thought," Callie turned slowly, "you thought disappearing was parenting?" "No," her mother said quickly. "We thought maybe if we erased the problem, the guilt would erase with it." There it was, the confession Callie hadn't realized she was waiting for. "I wasn't a problem," she said quietly. "I was your daughter. I just needed someone to stay." She walked out. Maggie was waiting by the rental car, hands in her pockets. Callie didn't say anything until they were halfway across the city, the light from the setting sun carving gold lines across the dashboard. "They didn't cry when they left me," she said, "but they cried today." Maggie glanced sideways. "They cried because they lost their house, not their daughter." Callie nodded. She knew that. But the ache didn't soften. It sat in her chest like a locked drawer she didn't have the key for. That night, she lay awake in the hotel, scrolling through her phone. The next morning, her name was trending. Not her real one. The fake account she used to handle official business had been traced, leaked by someone in the real estate office, probably. And her mother had posted a long, emotionally manipulative message complete with photos of the house and the closing line, "She's come back to punish us. We just wanted her to be strong." The comments were vicious. Some called her heartless. Others praised her for being ruthless. But the worst were the ones that said, "She clearly never needed her parents. Look at her now." That wasn't the point. She hadn't wanted revenge. She had wanted recognition. She had wanted someone, just one of them, to say you mattered. You weren't disposable. But they couldn't, so she'd have to give that to someone else. 3 weeks later, after renovations had begun, Callie stood at the front step of the house she now owned. The walls were being repainted, the furniture replaced, the cold, empty living room would become something new. She wasn't going to live here. She was going to transform it into a safe place for girls like her, girls who'd been left behind, ignored, cast out. The name was easy, Second Light, because not everyone gets to keep their first. When someone finally faces the people who broke them, is it justice, closure, or something else entirely? But just as Callie begins building a haven for others, a ghost from her past appears, carrying a truth that could unravel everything. Don't miss the next part of her journey. The scent of cinnamon drifted through the old house, now repainted in soft tones of sage and pearl. Afternoon light poured in through the windows like a blessing, warm and honeyed, dancing across the kitchen floor. Callie stood by the stove, watching Maggie carefully fold dough over sliced peaches, her fingers working with the rhythm of someone who had done it for decades. Outside, the laughter of 3 teenage girls spilled in from the porch, one of them shrieking in mock outrage over losing a card game. The house was alive now. The walls that once echoed with silence and pretense had become something else. Soft, forgiving, human. Callie had kept the renovations modest. No marble, no sleek Instagram aesthetics, just warmth. Bookshelves rescued from thrift stores, lamps with mismatched shades, a handmade sign above the fireplace that read, "We don't promise to replace your old family, but we will not disappear." Second Light had its first 5 residents within 2 months. Zara, who'd been sleeping in a park bathroom before a shelter worker called. Imani, who came straight from a group home where no one remembered her birthday. Elena, who hadn't spoken for the first week, but now sat in the reading nook every night, humming old pop songs under her breath. Each of them carried their own wreckage. But here, they weren't broken. They were building something. Callie worked quietly in the background, managing donations, overseeing schedules, sending anonymous scholarship applications. She still ran Seymour Advisory, but most of the money went right back into the house. She didn't need much. She had a mattress, a desk, a life. Some nights when she couldn't sleep, she'd walk through the halls barefoot, listening to the soft rise and fall of breath behind closed doors. And sometimes, for just a moment, she let herself believe she had done something good enough to erase the stain her parents left behind. Then the letter came. It arrived on a rainy morning, slipped between a coupon booklet and a gas bill. A handwritten envelope, no return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper, folded once. Her mother's handwriting. Callie's fingers trembled as she read. "You were always stronger than us." That terrified me. I wanted to be the kind of mother who would fight for her daughter. I wasn't. You became someone we didn't know how to talk to. You reminded us of everything we failed at. I'm sorry that we made you carry that alone. You don't have to forgive us. But if there's any part of you that remembers love, real love, I hope it knows we never stopped feeling it, even when we were too cowardly to show it. No signature, no return address, just ink and guilt. Callie sat on the stairs, letter still open in her lap, the sound of the rain on the roof heavy and slow. She should have felt relief, or anger, or something. But instead, she felt a quiet ache, like someone had knocked on a door inside her she didn't know was still locked. That night, she stood outside on the back porch, watching the droplets race down the wooden railing. Maggie joined her, sipping hot tea, eyes tired but steady. "She wrote," Callie said, holding out the letter. Maggie didn't take it. She just looked at Callie. "Do you want to forgive her?" Callie hesitated. "I don't know." Maggie nodded. "Then don't rush it. She said she was afraid of me, that I reminded her of everything she couldn't be." Maggie blew on her tea. People who are afraid of their own brokenness often run from anyone who looks too whole. Callie leaned against the post. "But I wasn't whole. You were surviving, and surviving when no one expects you to. That's terrifying to the people who gave up." Then they stood there a while longer, listening to the rain. A week later, Second Light received an unexpected visitor. Callie was restocking pantry shelves when one of the girls called out, "There's a lady at the door. Says her name's Claire. Says she's looking for Callie Moore." Callie froze. It had been years since she'd heard that name said like a question. She walked to the front hallway, slow, cautious. The woman standing on the porch had short hair now, grayer than before. She was thinner, smaller. Her hands clutched her purse like a child might hold a stuffed animal. Her eyes, once steely and sharp, now looked like someone who hadn't slept well in months. "Callie," she said. Callie didn't respond. Claire shifted. "I shouldn't have come, but I had to see it. I had to see what you built." "It's not about you," Callie said quietly. "I know," her mother replied. "But for years I told myself you didn't need me, that maybe you were better off without us. And then I started seeing your name on small business forums, on scholarship grant boards, in donation records. I started following your work, quietly, anonymously." Callie swallowed. Claire looked around the entryway, eyes misting. "This place, it's beautiful. It's safe," Callie said. "That's more important." Claire nodded. "I didn't come to ask for anything. I just wanted to tell you thank you for proving that we didn't break you, that you became better than we ever deserved." There was silence. Callie opened the door slightly wider. "I'm not ready to forgive you," she said, "but I'm not trying to punish you either." Claire blinked. "Then what are you doing?" Callie looked behind her. Alina was curled up on the couch, reading. Maggie was pulling a tray of cookies from the oven, humming. The house was breathing. "I'm giving what I never got," she said. "A second light. Not for you. For them." Claire nodded, tears streaking silently down her face. She didn't ask to come in. She didn't offer a hug. She just whispered, "Thank you," again, turned, and walked back down the steps into the rain. Callie stood in the doorway for a long time, letter still in her pocket, heart caught between grief and something warmer. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe grace. That night, the girls gathered in the living room. It was movie night. Blankets piled up on the floor, popcorn in mixing bowls. Maggie had made peach tarts, and someone had brought out the Bluetooth speaker they weren't supposed to use after 10. Callie sat on the armrest watching them laugh and bicker over which movie to pick. She smiled, a small, quiet smile, then reached into her pocket and tucked the letter beneath a book on the shelf. She didn't need it anymore, because this noise, this warmth, this messy, fragile hope, this was the apology she'd never received. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. What part of Callie's story moved you the most, and why do you think it stayed with you? If you love this story, comment 100 below. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. Share this video with a friend who believes in second chances. Thank you for watching Life Stories.